Crafters. Today I'm going to show you how to create your very own super sparkly, super cool clay mermaid pendants. Now, mermaids are everywhere these days. You see mermaids and unicorns in pop culture, you see them in fashion. Starbucks even created the unicorn frappuccino. Is a mermaid one next? I don't know, that makes sense to me. But anyway, what's great about these pendants is that you can really make them as ornate or as simple as you'd like. You can create them in any sort of color. You can create them for you, your friends, family, whoever. So you're first going to want to start off by setting all of your materials aside. Now this really helps me because I'm super messy when I craft. I tend to lose things, I tend to misplace things. It slows down the process. So you're going to want to lay everything out nice and neat when you start so you have everything in one place. So you're first going to want to start out with some oven baked clay. This is Phaeleh brand. You can use any color that you like. I like to mix colors even to create custom sort of colors. This is just a nice purple. My other mermaid tail was a green, so I thought I'd do a purple one. It would look really cool in teal or a nice dark black one with black crystals and black glitter. I'm going to do that one next. You're going to want some clear gloss glaze. As you can see, this is a lovely container of clear gloss glaze. Don't use clear nail polish. It is not going to work. Clear nail polish on clay tends to make it sort of gummy, so always use a glaze that is specifically designed to work with clay. You can grab this at Michael's or a craft store. You're going to want some cutters. These really help cut off excess clay in case you mess up and you need to take off some clay. An X-Acto knife, and then this little linoleum cutter actually works great at creating the scales at the top of the clay. If you don't have a linoleum cutter, you can probably use an X-Acto knife or a toothpick. It just might be a little bit more difficult. You're going to want a paintbrush. Then you're going to want some nice glitter. So use the fine glitter, don't use a chunky glitter because it's not going to really stick to the clay well. I always like to put the glitter on before I bake it. It tends to sort of adhere it to the surface more, but I'll show you more on that later. You're going to want some shimmery eyeshadow here. Also, I brush this on before I bake as well because it just, again, seems to adhere better. Then finally, you're going to want your glitz. So I'm using Swarovski flat back crystals here, and we're going to push these into the clay before we bake it. So you have those little indents, and then later on we're going to go back and glue them back on. So you're also going to need some glue. I prefer Gemtech over E6000 just because I feel Gemtech works a bit better. So first steps first, you're going to create 3 separate spheres of clay. 2 of them are going to be a little bit bigger, and then this one that goes at the top of the tail, that's going to be the one that's a little bit smaller. I try to create them as close as possible and keep them as symmetrical as possible, but I mean, it's nature. If you make one a little bit bigger, you can always fix it, or you can even leave it as sort of an asymmetric design. So for the 2 larger ones, you're going to want to flatten them out into sort of a fin shape. This takes a little bit of time, so you're going to want the thickness to be maybe about like 1/4 of an inch or so, give or take. If you want to make your mermaid tail a little bit bigger, I'd say make it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to flatten these out and create them into a cool fin type shape. It helps to have one side pointed, sort of like this. I mean, this is clearly in the beginning stages. It's going to take a little bit to form your tails. So I'm going to do this, and then I'll meet you back here after I've got sort of the right shape. So you're going to want to create something similar to this shape. There's a bunch of different shapes that you can do. If you look on Pinterest or anything, you'll find a ton of different mermaid type inspirations for you, but this is sort of the shape I used to create these 2 necklaces in this tutorial. So feel free to copy me or do your own sort of shape. You can make a spiky mermaid tail, you can make more of like a round mermaid tail, whichever you like. To get these little scallops here, I kind of use this paintbrush, sort of pushed it in at the bottom of the fin. As you can see, that creates somewhat of a little type scallop there. It's going to need a little bit more work. Press it in there and push it out. Then do it again to create another scallop. It's going to look weird at first. That's why you have to sort of mold it to a rounder shape. Hold it up against the other one to see how well you're matching. As you can see, this one's a lot bigger. That's where I'm going to take this knife, just sort of cut out the spots that I don't need. Cut off the clay, and then again round the edges more, mold it so it looks more finished. So once you have that first fin done, you always want to kind of copy the next one and make it as close as you can. So I'm just going to keep molding and making these as close as possible to each other, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so this is somewhat even. There's going to be a few differences, but that's okay because it adds to the design. Nothing has to be exactly perfect. So after you have your two fins, you're going to want to take your other ball of clay. Gotta re-roll it up. Then you're going to want to taper the end so it's thinner. Still leave it a little bit thick, something like that. And then sort of place it in the middle of your tail. And then you're going to want to smooth down the edges so that it kind of becomes invisible and blends into the clay. Now you just kind of rub gently and it'll start molding with the other clays. You can see that little edge there. So you just want to be nice and gentle and mold down both sides of the tail here. Once you have everything smoothed out and you can't really see that seam there anymore, just take your finger and smooth the entire piece. You don't want to see any fingerprints on here. If you see a fingerprint, it's going to mess up your design a bit. So I'm just going to go very gently, smoothing out everything with my fingers. It might take a little bit, but make sure you get everything nice and smooth. This is also the point where you can check the design. Just make sure it's as even as possible. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to get it as good as you can get it. So this is probably about as smooth as I'm going to get it. There's still a little bit of imperfections here and there, but it's okay because it's going to be covered up by the glitter and the crystals and everything. So to get that little scale pattern on the tail, this is where I use that linoleum cutter and kind of just press in to create the scallops. It should look something like this when you're finished. I continued the scales along the sides a little bit, so if the pendant turns, you can still see that pattern. The point where you're going to want to add all of your crystals. So lay them out. I think I'm going to go with maybe this pink one, and I'm going to do a purple pink theme because my green mermaid tail had this crystal. So I'd start with the largest one first. Place this right at the junction between the tail and the fins. Just press it down so it embeds into the clay just like that. Keep adding crystals. These flat backs are going to be a little bit easier to add. Simply place and then press so you get that little indent there. Continue them along the sides right here and then also radiate them down the fin for that sparkle pattern. So finish off by adding the rest of the pink crystals up the tail. I like to keep an asymmetric look by kind of going on that one side there. If you want to cover the whole tail, feel free to do so. Add some to the sides too, because this is what makes it pop. And you get that little shimmer on the side. Alrighty, time to add the shimmer eyeshadow and the glitter. So once you have the crystals placed and they're pretty well set in there, you're just going to take a little bit of eyeshadow on your brush, just a dusting, and then you're going to dust the piece. As you can see, the eyeshadow is adhering to the surface. Don't rub it in too much or it's going to make it disappear. Just sort of brush it on nice and evenly. So I'm going to sort of radiate out from the gold on this tail here to more of a silver on the fin part. If you want any glitter, this is where you can dust it on as well. So I'm just going to dust it on the tail here because that's where the pink is. Once you get some on the tail, press it in gently so it adheres into the clay just like the eyeshadow did. Now this is your absolute last chance to smooth out any imperfections. There's probably going to be some due to all of the dusting and all the glitter that we added. So just go back and just fine tune it. Make sure that you get out any of the little fingerprints or marks. Be gentle though because you don't want to distort your shape. Once all of your imperfections are out, you can create your small hole at the top. So just take a needle, twist it as you go through, make sure it's straight, all the way through that top of the tail. What you can do after this, if you're all set, is you can bake it. Use a toaster oven and set the oven to about 125 degrees and bake it for about 30 minutes or so. Depending how big your tail is, you might have to bake it for longer. As long as these crystals are glass, keep the crystals in there. They can go in the oven, they can bake, they'll be fine. I'll meet you back here after the mermaid tail is all baked and ready to be painted. Alright, once your tail is out of the oven, fully cooled, it's cool to the touch, what we're going to do is we're going to take out any of the stones that aren't fully in there. Sometimes if you just place them in and press them down a little bit, they're going to be kind of loose. So especially this large one, I didn't press it down too much because I didn't want to distort the shape, so it comes out easily. You can test it kind of by lifting up the edges of any other stones. If you press them down really far in, the clay is going to sort of embed around the edges, and that's fine. You can leave those in. But for something like this, I'd want to reinforce it with glue. So just take your gem tack, put a little bit of glue in that spot, and then just replace the stone. Press it down fully. It's okay if a little glue gets on the edges. Gem tack dries very clear, so you're not going to be able to see it. So I'm going to continue doing this with any stones I feel I didn't press in well enough. And finally, we can start to glaze it. So take your glaze, get a little bit on the brush, not too much, and then just simply paint around all the stones. If you accidentally paint over a stone, you can use nail polish remover or like a wet cloth to get it off really fast. Don't wait for it to dry, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to get off. So just continue adding the glaze on the whole mermaid pendant. Make sure there's a nice coating. Any place where you don't have the coating, you'll be able to see. If you want to, you can also add in some eyeshadow to your clear glaze just to give it that little bit of shimmer. So I did that on the ends of the tail here, and then I also sprinkled some dark glitter on top to give it that full ombre feel. So once everything's coated, you just need to set it aside to dry for a few hours. Look on the back of your glaze. It usually says how many hours it needs to dry for. Once everything's definitely dry and everything's sealed, we can go ahead and make this into pendants. So I'll show you a simple way that I just took this and made it into a chain necklace. You can add it to cording, add it to chain, make a beaded necklace, whichever you'd like, but I just decided to go the easy route and make a chain necklace. Alright, we've made it to the easiest, most simple part of this tutorial. You're almost finished, so stay with me. You're going to need an eye pin, 2 6mm jump rings, a lobster claw, and then also some chain. You can make the chain as long or short as you want it. I mean, I would probably go with a longer necklace, say like 22 inches, 24, 26. I wouldn't really do like an 18-inch one, otherwise you want a huge mermaid tail hanging right on your neck. But if that's your thing, go with it. You do you. So what we're going to do is I've got 2 lengths of chain. They're both the same length. If you want to do like a 22-inch chain, you'd have 2 11-inch pieces. You're going to take the eye pin, and you're just going to thread it through the whole of the mermaid tail. Once you get to the other end, bend it at a 90-degree angle. Cut it so that there's maybe 1/4 of an inch hanging off the mermaid tail. And then use your round nose plier to bend it into a loop. Sorry, I have to do this near me. So you've got your mermaid tail made into a little charm. After that, take your round nose pliers, open up these links, and then add it to the chain. 1 chain on each side. Close it up. Take your other chain, add it to the other side. Close it up. So that secures it to the middle of your necklace. All you're going to do to the ends is just take the jump rings, add them to the back link, add your lobster claw to one. It helps to have 2 pairs of pliers to bend the jump ring back. Don't ever use a round nose pliers to bend jump rings. Do as I say, not as I do, right? You want to use a flat nose pliers. It just helps prevent it from getting crooked. Round nose pliers are for making loops. But I can't find my flat nose right now, so guess what? We're using round nose. It still works. So there you have it. You have your little mermaid tail necklace. Super simple to add the tail to a chain. If you want to add it to cording, I would just connect the cords here. You may, if you do a larger hole on this pendant, you may be able to actually fit a cord through. I did a thinner hole, so that's why I have the eye pin here. So you guys have finally made it through the whole tutorial. I know that it was a bit long and a little bit tedious, but trust me, the results are worth it. This green one I made earlier, I just added it to some gold chain instead of silver because I felt that it matched the tones a little bit better. So feel free to change it up however you see fit. Like I said, you can make them in different colors, different shapes. I'm definitely making a black sparkly one for all my little goth mermaids out there. But anyways, you feel free to change it up based on what you like. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will try to answer you as quick as possible. I'm definitely not the expert on polymer clay, but if you have simple questions, I can definitely help you guys out. So thanks for watching. Hope you had fun. Anyone who loves mermaids or anyone who just loves sea life, sparkly things in general, these are perfect for you to make. Thanks again, and stay classy, crafters. Peace.